Hey, what's up guys? So this is another 2-week update and I've got some pretty cool things done on the van that I'll show you this time. So the first thing is obviously the solar panels. I picked up two 100-watt grape solar panels from Home Depot, and I got them from Home Depot because they come with like a 10-year warranty. So if there's ever a problem with them, I just wanted a big retailer that I could take them back to and not have a hassle. I know that a lot of people buy the Renogy panels off Amazon, and I'm sure those are good too, but I just figured if there's a 10-year warranty, I might as well be able to use it. So I'll start out by showing you some of the electrical. This is the electrical panel that I've been building. These are all going to be cut out into the panel, so that's an LP and carbon monoxide detector right there. That's a remote switch for the Xantrex 2000 inverter, and that's a switch for my 6 lights, but I only have them on 3 switches, so 2 lights are controlled by each switch. And then that's my 30 amp MPPT solar controller. So here's my electrical panel. I have it all hooked up. Well, we'll start off at the isolator. So this runs to the battery. I have it on an 80 amp circuit breaker on both sides of about 20 feet of 4-gauge wire. And then I have the automatic charge relay. So when it senses something like 13 volts in the circuit, it opens up and connects the 2 batteries so that I don't drain the starter battery if I deplete my AGM deep cycles. So there's my AGM deep cycle battery bank. I have 3 100 amp hour group 27 deep cycle batteries there. So that'll give me about 150 amp hours of usable battery, and I should get a pretty good lifespan, only going to a depth of discharge of about 50% with those. They're all connected together with one 0-gauge not battery cable, it's welding cable. So it's stranded copper wire. It's really flexible, pretty easy to work with. And I constructed this battery case to hold them in place. I guess it's not really a case, it's kind of like a frame. But this goes through the body of the van, and I have washers on the bottom too, and some Dicor tape on the other side, just so that no water splashes up into the inside. But these are 3/8 inch stainless bolts, and you can see it's actually supported on the bottom too by another washer, so that the top battery is not resting on the bottom 2 batteries. And then I have everything grounded back here. So the battery bank itself is grounded. The Xantrex 2000 is grounded, and my 12-volt distribution panel is also grounded. So going off of the batteries, I first ran it to a 250 amp circuit breaker because this can pull a momentary load of like 3,000 watts. So 3,000 watts divided by 12, you get around 250. And then I have my master on-off switch, and then the on-off switch connects to the inverter, and going off of, and this is all with 0-gauge welding cable. So those wire runs are really short, and using 0-gauge cable, there's not going to be hardly any voltage drop across like 2 feet to the inverter. So I should get really high efficiency when I'm pulling out of the inverter, whether I'm running a microwave or anything really. And then I have some 4-gauge wire going from the switch, also connecting to my automatic charge relay. So when there's voltage in the circuit, that'll turn on, and my alternator will have power going up here through the ACR, and then to the master switch and to the batteries. And also coming off of the same point of the ACR, just because it was convenient, I ran this 6-gauge wire. I had it on hand just from an old amplifier system, and it had an 80 amp inline fuse, so I figured I'd just make use of that. So going from directly from the battery bank, it connects to this, the 4-gauge wire from the battery bank connects to the automatic charge relay at the same point as the 6-gauge cable that I have coming off here, and the 6-gauge cable runs to my 12-volt distribution panel. So if you guys notice anything that you think is really silly that I've really messed up here, go ahead and point it out, because I'm not an electrical engineer, but I think I have everything fused right, and my voltage drop should be pretty insignificant. The only thing, if you're really paying attention, that you might notice is that I said I have an 80 amp fuse on here, but this is 6-gauge wire. The ampacity of 6-gauge wire is actually something like 50 or 60 amps, but I'm never gonna be pulling 60 amps from my distribution panel, because I'm really only running it to a fridge, a max fan, and a couple of LED lights. So realistically, I'm never gonna, this thing's rated for like 140 amps max distribution, and I don't foresee myself ever going over like 15 amps at any given time. And I'm also gonna have my MPPT solar feeding into that, and that has a max output of 30 amps, but I'm not feeding enough solar into it to get 30 amps, and you can have up to 30 amp fuses in each of these slots. So that'll work well for the rest of my electrical components that I'm going to be putting on the 12-volt circuit. So I have the inverter running right now, and I'll just show you guys it working. So I've got my power drill that I've been doing pretty much all my work with. And yeah, so that's the Xantrex 2000. It works pretty well. So yeah, I still have some work to do on the electrical, but it's coming together. It's gonna be done this weekend, and I have some wire runs going up into the ceiling for my LED lights, and I'll have some come back here too. I'll have 6 total. I guess another new thing is the bed frame. So some of my buddies are on a trip right now, and I kind of copied their bed frame design. It actually works really well. It was nice because I was able to mount the entire electrical panel up in there, but I mean, this thing's really, you can't tell, but I'm pulling on it really hard there. And yeah, it's rock solid. I'm gonna put some 1/2-inch pine plywood on top, and I'm gonna hinge it on the 2x6 so that this end comes up and the other end will fold up. Mostly because I want to be able to access all the gear in there, and if I ever need to get at the electrical, I don't want to have to pull apart the bed to get at that. But yeah, that's what's going on with that. Yeah, another thing that I was working on today was I picked this cabinet up off Craigslist for free. It's just standard 24-inch deep, 36-inch wide. These are made with particle board, so I pulled it apart and reinforced it with 1x2s, and I replaced that board down there because the particle board was falling apart. And it's white on the inside, but I sanded it and stained it so it blends in a bit more. And it also added some stability. So this is a little bit more rigid. And I think once I bolt it down to the floor and the bed frame, it's not gonna shake apart. At least I hope not, because I really didn't want to spend a lot of time building cabinets. And that leaves space for my Norcold 12-volt fridge that's going to go right here. I have a 30-inch tall fridge freezer that, again, picked that up off Craigslist. And so that'll just go right there. And then I'm going to pick up a piece of plywood, or not plywood, it'll be like nice pine hardwood, maybe some kind of press board. And after I do the wall, I'll put that on the top, and that'll go across and extend over the fridge. And then I'll put some cutouts in that for a 2-burner stove and a sink. So I'm gonna have to probably chop this off so that it's much more shallow drawer, so that I can have room for a sink in there. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much everything that's going on with the van. I can show you guys up front. This is just how it connects. So I used some wire loom to guard the battery cable that I ran, or welding cable, the 4-gauge welding cable, because it runs pretty close to the engine. So this runs down, and then it just runs along the frame, and I use some zip ties to put it right on the frame. Yeah, so that's how it all connects. And then it runs down here. And then it comes up through the floor. So that's it. If you guys have any questions, or if you want to point something out that I missed or overlooked or whatever, let me know. All right, thanks. See you guys.